Welcome to the Clause YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Clause YouTube channel Strategic Frontlines. And today we have with us Air Marshal Bedi, AVSM, VSM retired. He was commissioned as a fighter pilot, a seasoned combat leader, and former DG of Inspection and Flight Safety. I welcome you to this podcast, Air Marshal Bedi. And we also have Major General Deepak Mehra, Kirti Chakra, AVSM, VSM retired. He was India's military attaché in Moscow and is a scholar which specializes in geopolitics and Russian studies. And welcome to you also, Major General Deepak Mehra.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
And it's a pleasure to have both of you on this podcast. Thank you. Thank you, sir. And as you know, that the Russian President Putin is going to visit India, is going to come tomorrow. So what we are going to do is we'll be discussing the India-Russia relations in the current geopolitical milieu. President Putin visited India last time in, I think, 2021. And since then, the strategic landscape has changed and has become more complex. Trump and his tariffs have created geo-economic shifts. And for Russia, the Russia-Ukraine war has been long drawn with deep ramification. There is a view that this is the right time to strengthen, recalibrate, or reimagine the Russia-India relationship. Further, there is a view that since India's engagement with the US has seen a downturn, and there may be a US-China rapprochement, so it becomes natural for India and Russia to come closer. We already have a special and privileged strategic partnership with Russia. So we need to cement it with more economic cooperation which go beyond the realm of defense. So my first question is to Major General Mehra. How significant is Putin's visit in terms of the ongoing geopolitical realignments? Russia has been talking about engaging more with Eurasia, and Central Asian security is important. So what role both the countries can play globally?
At the outset, ma'am, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to express the views, and especially on the eve of visit of President Putin. It's been 4 years, and since the time President Putin came to India for the visit, now the landscape, what was existing in 21 and what exists today, is quite different. The global order which existed at that time with the unipolar world is so slowly but surely fragmenting. Multiple emerging powers, contesting power centers, new alignments are emerging. And on top of it, these rivalries between these powers do not only transcend the traditional military domains, but they go down to economic dominance, utilizing economic tools as weapons, denial of technology to maintain the technology leadership, and of course, as we saw recently, control over critical resources. And the visit for India, the visit of President Putin, is amid the unprecedented US economic pressures on India. 50% tariffs, with additional 25% specifically targeting Indian procurement of Russian oil. Therefore, as I said earlier, effectively weaponizing trade to compel the alignment of the nations. Now, if this is the context of the visit or the backdrop of the visit, it really shapes the significance of this entire visit, this entire discussion over 2 days. It is not only a demonstration of the strategic autonomy path that the India walks right from many decades. It is a reaffirmation of Moscow's critical. Also, it is a reaffirmation, of Moscow's critical importance to New Delhi's independent foreign policy. Now, as far as U.S. pressure is concerned, uh, by imposing these additional duties, Washington, to my mind, personally speaking, has inadvertently strengthened for India to maintain energy relationship independent of the US approval. As I was listening to Mr. Dmitry Peskov during the pre-visit briefings, and he time and again mentioned that as Russia, we understand the pressure under which India is today. So it actually signals that Moscow recognizes how New Delhi faces the sort of coercive external pressure, not only from our northern neighbor, but from a traditional ally on which we had almost spent 20 to 25 years building the extensive relationship. That is the US and the West. And as far as India is concerned, for us, I think one thing which clearly stands out now as we go through various documents, what all is on the anvil during this visit, what all is likely to be achieved, it clearly demonstrates. And as our Honorable Foreign Minister keeps on saying, that we shall not subordinate our national interests to any sort of external pressures, and will maintain a strategic autonomy, which has defined our foreign policy since independence. I
Okay.
think this lays down the entire context, and also both Russia and India do share the vision of multipolarity, and the strategic vision are
Yes.
against the one country leading the selective unilateralism, not unilateralism, selective unilateralism,
Yes.
rather than sort of multilateral cooperation.
I agree with you, Major General Mehra. I would like to bring in Air Marshal Bedi, and we would like to ask you, as Major General Mehra mentioned about multipolarity, both Russia and India believes in multipolarity, and they want to prevent the domination of any one country. So, do you feel that Russia will also try to hedge as far as its relationship with China is concerned? It would like to be more balancing in terms of its preventing its over dependence on China. So, how do you feel the Russia-China and India relationship will work out in future? As also your initial remarks about the visit.
Thank you. General Mehra has articulated it very well. I echo his views, and there is no doubt that this visit is being seen as very important visit. It's come, like we say, first visit after the Russia-Ukraine war started. Now, Russia per se as a country is not a new entity on the block. We had relations with USSR or Soviet USSR since ages. They're helping India in 71 vis-a-vis, what role America had to play, strengthen the ties. All of us have grown flowing 21s and various variants. Defense equipment has been, very, very strong. But what happens is geopolitics itself does not stay steady. So when geopolitics changes color, then India and any other country has to recalibrate its own strategy. It's enforced on you. It's not by choice. It is a compulsion that you have to, safeguard your interests. And as they say that there are no permanent friends and no permanent enemies, there are only permanent interests, and every country has the right to safeguard them. Then what happened? Disintegration of USSR. Suddenly we realized that something which was coming from one country has now got divided. Half our airframes were being made in one country, engines were in the other country, and suddenly you had to deal with 6-7 of them. That is when we started looking at it that, okay, no idea in putting all the eggs in one basket. Not that Western influence had not started. We had Jaguars much before USSR broke up. Mirage 2000 had already come. And we had started looking at Western side to balance it out. And the economy when started improving, you see, another problem was that how strong was your economy? It's all interrelated. You had to depend on only one partner, which was relatively cheaper because you didn't have enough money. And when India started growing economically, then we had the choice that, okay, why not get the best? And if West offered you best, then you probably went towards that. So this is how it's been panning out. And now again, we were happy. We have majority of Su-30 squadrons. We have, S-400 deal. We have a whole lot of Russian equipment with us. But when Russia-Ukraine war started, you realize that, okay, country's own requirements will always overtake, what it can supply outside. And then, of course, all these sanctions related oil, etc., happened. So India continuously had to recalibrate, and it has done well, I must say. Withstood the pressure of US against purchase of oil, etc. I mean, we did show that we have strategic autonomy and we can think for ourselves. But at the same time, we are not foolish. It's not that we have to prove a point. We don't have to prove a point to US or to Russia or to the entire world that as to how, how should I say that, how strong we are, or how, what kind of autonomy we have to move carefully. As far as this region is concerned, what you brought out specifically, Russia, China, Russia definitely, if India has a lot of things to gain from Russia's alliance, equally Russia has a lot of things to gain from India's alliance. Now, if we see Russia-China partnership, or the way it has emerged as the Ukraine war started, Xi's visit and Putin's visit there, etc. Slowly along the line, Russia realized that it is being seen as a junior partner to China. And this phrase has been used in many, literature also, that China treats Russia as a junior partner. Okay, so Russia also does not want to have over dependence over China. So it does need credible partners like India, which can help it grow economically, which can improve its trade, which can give it the kind of footing that it wants. And we have a very, very crucial game between Russia, China, Pakistan, and India. Okay, it's not a straight thing. Now it depends how much let's say China, if it has to favor Pakistan, how much can it woo Russia against India so that Pakistan is favored? And if Russia, in our interest to make it strong, so that how much Russia can woo China against Pakistan so that, India is not troubled so much. So it's in our interest to make Russia strong. It's in Russia's interest to have, credible partnership in India, not just for the namesake, but something in the fields which makes it grow so that in the region, the whole balance geopolitically is somewhat balanced. Thank you.
Air Marshal Bedi rightly pointed out about the economics. And economics play a very important part in cementing the relationship. Now, whenever we used to talk about Russia-India relationship in the past, defense used to play a major sector. The defense was a major sector. But of late, we have seen there's a sharp fall. For example, from 2010-14, it was 72%. But gradually, it has come down to 36% in 2020 to 2024. But then we try to recalibrate, and energy made a major power as far as relationship is concerned. And there has been a growth in the relationship. For example, if we take the financial of 2025, the trade has grown to about 68 billion. But the flip side is that the India's export is not that great. I think we have about 4 billion or so. So my question is to Major General Mehra. What should we do to increase or diversify our trade? Not only apart from defense, energy, what are the other sectors you feel where we can collaborate? For example, if we take pharma or the textiles sector, do you feel that these two sectors have the impetus to make a dent as far as our relationship is in this and in a positive way to have a domestic market of Russia? The other area which is not which is talked about is the skilled labor. Do you
Mhm.
feel that that section also has a potential to grow? So all these sectors, along with defense, of course, and energy, what are the other sectors you feel can India and Russia work together to cement their economic ties?
Ma'am, wonderful question, and I think no better time to ask this question in backdrop of this visit starting tomorrow and on till day after. Traditionally, as you said, it has been defense, which is also changing. The nature of defense relationship is changing. I'll allude to it. And then it came up to the oil from 1% to, as General Bedi brought out, almost 38, 39% was the one. And it created sort of a skewed trade imbalance, that a balance in favor of Russia, which sort of reflects what should I say, structural distortion, right? And with Indian exports, as you mentioned, only 4.88 billion against what we are importing from Russia to the tune of almost 62 to 63 billion. So that is where we stand today. It is not good for any country, right? So the some of the new major areas of cooperation to address this huge imbalance between the two nations, first and the foremost, and which is personally very close to my heart because having stayed in Moscow for 3 years plus now, this was a constant question I used to ask, and in fact, to our high dignitaries who also came, that included our present foreign minister also when he came as a foreign secretary there. That Indian diaspora is one diaspora which has an ability to adjust and be the part of the culture wherever it goes, be it the West, be it the Africa, be it anywhere in the world, right? And be it the Southeast Asia. Why is it that the Russian laws or Russian legal apparatus does not sort of allow the huge scale migration of a skilled or a semi-skilled Indian workers? They are very less as compared to the size of Russia. And considering that the Russian population is not expanding at the way they would like it to expand, that it is five times the size of country, five times the size of India, with population just about 145 million, and we have 1.4 billion. So I think this particular movement, as we talk today, is a very single most important development to my mind that is going to happen, hopefully going to happen in next 2 days. Uh, that is India-Russia labor mobility agreement, and this would be a sort of a game changer. Addresses critical Russian demographic challenges, its population decline, its labor shortage across across variety of areas to include construction, IT, healthcare, manufacturing sectors, and so many others. Also, this agreement establishes the legal frameworks to protect workers' right and while expanding the pathways for that. It is estimated if this agreement is signed, so we will have sort of almost 200,000 India plus workers by, as they say, 2030, generating a healthy annual remittances and service revenue, which itself will reduce the negative trade balance that we have. Second aspect which I would like to touch upon, as you said, how we are apart from the defense and oil, how we are going. I will just touch upon defense, how the shape is changing. From a purely buyer-seller relationship, we are on to co-production. From 36, it has come to, from 70 or something, it has come to 36%. So when we create an ecosystem within India to co-produce things, have joint productions, have joint ventures with India, like in the case of AK-203, during which time I was there. So this will itself create lots of opportunities for both the countries. Then, as the Russian doors are being closed from the West and from other countries with respect to the trade and food trade and all, so there is increasing export and import which is being generated, be it in the uh, agriculture produce or the marine products or the fruits. It will create sort of opportunities for the not only for it will not only create opportunities for farmers, food exporters, but also maybe that will address the current asymmetry that we face with Russia today. Then again, Russia was never a engineering goods manufacturing country nor electronics manufacturing country. So there is uptick in the export of Indian engineering goods, electronics, of course, the pharmaceutical you have already mentioned. Sort of these are non-core energy, non-energy Indian exports which are happening today, and these are on the rise. Then also the investment in each other's countries. I think in one of the bilateral conferences, it was estimated that by 2030, we should be reaching 100 billion USD, 100 billion investment targets. So if that has to take place, the investment annual investment growth has to stabilize at about 7 to 8% annually. I'm sure post this visit, as we start dissecting the white paper that will be given or the signed paper, we will get to know lots of other things in that. Another important aspect which is happening is a qualitative shift from the traditional bilateral Russia-India trade frameworks to the regional frameworks. There is an organization which we have all heard about, Eurasian Economic Union, also known as EAEU, where apart from Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan are the members. So once this EAU and India FTA is sort of, it's still under process. It's signed in over a couple of next months or maybe a year from now. It will give markets to Indian SMEs, micro and medium enterprises, MSMEs, and this will be a sort of a qualitative shift. And one more thing I would like to put in here is again, it's not really defense, but the civil nuclear space. Though Kudankulam, we all know Kudankulam 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's so much Russia and India has cooperated or joint ventures in this particular field. Uh, Discussions are already underway to expand this collaboration to other areas in the civil nuclear place to include small modular
Small
nuclear
modular
reactors.
reactors.
Yes.
Yes.
So you remember the amount of energy that these data centers which are coming up, 15 billion, somebody is investing, 20
Yes.
billion, somebody is sweating towards Vizag and all. They all will require humongous amounts of energy. And these are the ones which will probably take the cake.
Yeah, you rightly pointed out small modular reactors are the future, this thing, but there is some time to go. But one thing you pointed out was the about you were talking about the ecosystem what is being created in India as far as the defense is concerned, and we are going into Atmanirbhar Bharat. That is our mission. So I would like to bring in Air Marshal Bedi. As General Mehra pointed out, that the thing has changed from buyer-seller relationship to co-production. And BrahMos is a classic example of this. So what are the other areas you feel that we can co-produce with Russia? There was a lot of buzz around procuring additional S-400s, and there were also talks about S-500, which is their latest systems. There have also been talks about Su-57. So, do you feel there is a scope for cooperation on engines, sensors, stealth materials, or you feel it's still the ecosystem is still not there for India?
No, you see, there is a lot of scope for cooperation, and that is, like General also alluded to, that from buyer-seller, relationship, it's co-production, or cooperation. So, but what happens is, it's not that someone wants to give you technology and it just comes. The country has to be ready to absorb it as well, right? So, but while we are on that way, it's one thing to say that, okay, Russia says, take Su-57s from us, there will be complete transfer of technology. Now, that complete transfer of technology has to be absorbed in India. That means India's own ecosystem has to be that much matured. I mean, your scientists, your people who are working, your infrastructure, your other things. I mean, what all, after all, will come from there? They may tell you know-how, but other things have to come up along with that. But if we start from the beginning, let's say like BrahMos you mentioned, we have successfully been co-producing BrahMos, but sometimes back we are still co-producing. Like it's not that everything now is being made in India. So I don't know, what exactly is left, which is still being made in Russia. Maybe some sensors, maybe some RF technology, some radars, etc., some control systems. So it takes time that when a country can make everything on its own. But yes, even if the other country is ready to give you everything, there are many areas of cooperation. Let's start from the engines. Like we have a Kaveri engine. It's still not fully functional. Uh, we have achieved quite a bit of, let's say some figure, you put 85 kilonewtons or 87 kilonewtons, we are short by 10 kilonewtons, so to say. So this is where, and what is wanting is, metallurgy is the problem, some blade technology is the problem. And the biggest of all, the test systems, you'll be surprised to know that we still don't have testing facilities in India. Whenever you achieve a higher benchmark on an engine, it still has to fly to Russia. So we are already cooperating on that. The development of Kaveri engine to an extent is being helped there. But how would shifting those testing facilities to, let's say, India, rather than we having to go to Russia every time to test it. Okay, before we talk of Su-57 complete transfer of technologies, these chota things need to come up. S-400, when you said it's a Google information that we contracted for 5 systems, 3 are there, 2 are on the way, and we ran through very rough patch with respect to US. At one time we didn't know how to pay them, for these systems. Dollars were not on the horizon. Rupees, you couldn't pay so much. There was no bank accepting it. It was quite a tedious stuff. But S-400, definitely we need more. Air defense, it's a very potent air defense system. We have seen in the Operation Dur, it done wonderfully well. Its aim was different. It's a anti-ballistic missile defense. It has got 3 kinds of missiles, 120 kilometers, 250 kilometers, 400 kilometers range, depending on what kind of target you have. It's not a one solution fits all, because 400 kilometer range missile, let's say, flies at Mach 14, because it's supposed to go to 30 kilometers to intercept a ballistic missile. Now, can that be used against an aircraft? No. So like that, there is a combination of all these systems, a defense system which needs to be looked into, and more systems definitely would be advantageous. At the same time, when we talk of Su-57, now it's a 5th generation aircraft. It's got a stealth, it has got advanced SR radars, long range weapons, etc. So before we talk of, let's say, you buy Su-57 and we do complete transfer of technology, before that, how about it's my personal view now, I'm sure government will look at it. How about showing intent of transfer of technology for our existing systems? Like we want to develop MCA. So what can you do for MCA? Why only for Su-57? So can you give me stealth material or stealth technology for my MCA platform? Okay. We are still talking of, co-development of engine with Safran. Okay, so now how about co-development of engine without the aircraft on site? Don't link it with Su-57 deal or S-400 deal. You say as it is, cooperation, whether that should be byproduct, not the cooperation. The purchase of the thing should be byproduct, and you start cooperating. And, slowly you move, and there is so much in defense. We have been operating, whether missile systems, the land systems, the naval systems, and even in the Air Force, majority Su-30 squadrons, now there's spare support. Okay. Air Force would know that how's the spare support, working with Russia already embroiled in that. So let's say if we now end up with more Russian stuff, then is that spare support? You can't just promise me spare support of Su-57. Show it for Su-30 also. Show it for MiG-29s. Show it for other defense equipment that we are operating. That okay, we will make them 100% serviceable. You will have nothing, no unserviceability. We have IL-76, we have IL-78, all Russian platforms, right? So you got to start cooperating and showing improvement, or enhancement in cooperation on the systems we are already operating, rather than pitching new systems and say that okay, you buy that, we will give you a lot of technology on that. BrahMos 2 is hypersonic missile is on the cards. They say we will do it, and if you do so, before that, would we like that the complete technology transfer from BrahMos is shifted to India without any intervention of Russia? That, India should be able to make it completely on itself. So if that is there, then let's talk of BrahMos too. So there is a lot of scope of cooperation. I don't think we have still realized the complete potential. And if we need to import these things from Russia for some time, yes, we must do it. Atmanirbhar, like you said, is going on, but you need some benchmark. It's not a bad idea to import some technology, learn from it, and grow your own system. And even economy. I mean, I will just make one point. It's not always quid pro quo. Like we will talk of trade deficit. So it's not that if I buy something from Russia, Russia only has to buy from me. So if I buy oil, Russia lower the price of oil. That is why we ended up buying a lot of oil. So trade deficit, like you said, got skewed. But what am I doing with that oil? So where am I using it, that oil? Do I have to sell, now wheat or bananas or sugar only to Russia? It can go to other countries. It's a chain, which is created. I buy a lot of stuff as a individual from some person. He doesn't buy it back from me something. It is a chain which is created. So now the global world is in such a fashion that if we have to import certain things from a country, I think we should look at the avenues that not necessarily we have to, export something to that country only. It can go to other countries, and your overall trade deficit must reduce. Import versus export, wherever you are doing, not necessary to Russia only, or to, from where you're buying. Uh, Give it everywhere. So your tariff systems can be, overlooked. We don't have to sell things to America only. I mean, you need to become competitive. You need to become competitive. You need to become qualitative. That is where countries like Russia can help. That, okay, where is the quality lacking? Why are we not competitive in regional market vis-a-vis, let's say, China or Europe? Help us there. Improve the quality. Make me worthy in my market, so that I don't look at you only to export my things. I import from you, I export somewhere else, and my overall trade deficit is looked after. So, and defense has got a huge capability or potential in that, I would say.
You very rightly pointed out, Marshal Bedi, so many areas where in defense we can work together. And I'm sure tomorrow's meeting, Friday's meeting, all these things will be looked into, because there is a huge potential for both the countries to cooperate. But as you rightly pointed out, transfer of technology is one thing which is very important. And you also mentioned about oil. So my next question is to Major General Mehra. We know the energy is a core area, and we have been a major importer of oil. But with the sanctions coming, the imports have fallen drastically. So, how are we going to navigate this area? And also, you spoke about skilled labor. So, another area which needs to be spoken about is the rupee ruble trade. Is it viable? Or we have an alternative. There were talks about digital payments through India's RuPay and Russia's Mir payment network. So, how does it work? And related to this is another question about economic corridors. Both India and Russia are looking into the economic corridors. We have the north-south corridor and the Vladivostok-Chennai maritime corridor. So how these two corridors, what is the future of this, and the money part?
So basically, two questions: oil, its impact, and what India is doing to overcome that, and how do we overcome that. And second is about the both on the east of the Eurasian continent and the west of the Eurasian continent, two corridors which are emerging, or which have partly emerged, we should say. Rightly brought out, ma'am, and especially with the U.S. Treasury designating the two largest oil companies of Russia, Rosneft and Lukoil, as a primary target for sanctions. So this has created a lot of restrictions on Indian firms to import, lest they are also sanctioned in time and space, as it seems. And so that is again a disadvantage of putting all your eggs in one basket, getting you 38 to 40% of your crude from one particular source does create this sort of disadvantage to any country. Now it is going to increase our import expenditure. It's going to increase 6 to, as the estimates say, 6 to 7 billion because of the spike in the crude prices after that, and it does have a lot of long-term implications for energy security. What we need to do to not to have such this supply disruptions, first and the foremost, which comes to the mind is the diversification, increasing imports from others, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, UAE, Brazil, US, which we are already doing it as of now, I believe. Other aspect is creation of strategic petroleum reserves to act as a buffer against such huge disruptions. We have a buffer. We increased the buffer quite a bit from what it was 10, 12 years back. But we have a long way to go. Look at another neighbor. It can really um, overcome this sort of disruption for a very for many months put together. Also, long-term contracts, negotiating multi-year supply arrangements with protective sort of a clauses, and also the going from a hydrocarbon to the more greener energy sort of a thing, having LNG partnerships, of which Russia and many other countries have a huge supply, though they also do face a sort of a similar sanctions risks. Uh, Coming on to the two corridors which are in the process of being created, and to some extent they have been operationalized. That is International North-South Transport Corridor and Chennai Vladivostok Corridor. Now, INSTC connecting India via Chabahar, Iran through Central Asia. I think it is one of the most critical sort of alternative routes, trade routes for Russia, India trade and commerce, and valuable, particularly valuable, given the disruptions in and around the Suez Canal area and the sanctions pressure. So already if you look at the gains that one gets through the INSTC vis-a-vis the Suez route or Suez Canal route, the transit time is almost 3 weeks shorter than the Suez route, and the distance also almost 40% shorter. And obviously, with this, the freight cost does come down, and the exports and imports become a bit more competitive. And it has annual savings for both the countries quite a bit. However, there are always not hunky dory with such things, because there are some bottlenecks also, if I recall correctly, with the INSTC, because there is because it passes through many countries. Therefore, there is a gauge problem, there is a operational capacity constraints, there is infrastructure development. Chabahar port itself has a limited capacity, which is expanding. Planned expansion is almost to 12 million tons under phase two from almost 3 million tons. So it is, but the sanctions on Iran does put additional pressure on India again. Then the railways have to be upgraded. The gauges are different. The other allied infrastructure of transfer of these containers from one train to another train. There are many other aspects which are there. And in fact, I recall a very interesting incident. There was this car rally organized through Mahindras right from Vizag to London, and it passed through this entire NSTC route. So from Mumbai, they went by ship right up to Chabahar, and from there, from Iran, Azerbaijan, and military wing in Moscow got the opportunity to conduct this entire thing in Russia. So we went to our Makachakala, that is the city in Russia on the border of Azerbaijan and Russia. And then along with that, we drove, and we got quite a bit of good inputs from these people who had gone. Almost 30 vehicles had gone, all XUVs, and it was a wonderful opportunity. And on the way back again, they passed through this entire Volgograd, Moscow, Petersburg, and right into then entering the East Europe and finally going on to London. So there are things happening which is there, and it helps all the countries en route, whether it's Iran, whether it's other countries, Azerbaijan, and things are already on. Now coming on to Chennai Vladivostok Eastern Maritime Corridor. Now if you see map of Russia is over 11 time zones. If St. Petersburg, it's its western periphery and window into the Europe, then into the Asia Pacific, it is the Vladivostok. So it is, but the distance between the two is almost maybe 7,000 kilometers or maybe more. It takes what, about 8.5, 9 hours direct flight from Moscow to reach Vladivostok, flying over one country. So that is the type of difference. And the bulk of Russian population, almost 75% of it, lives west of Urals towards Moscow and St. Petersburg. So Chennai Vladivostok corridor goes to the other side. But the positive sign is as Russia moves away from Greater Europe and focuses towards Greater Eurasia, the development of this area of Siberia, of Far East, ports like Vladivostok on the eastern coast is really uh, moving at a great speed. And this entire area is very, very resource rich. You call it the coal, minerals, rare earth minerals, oil gas pipelines, Sakhalin oil fields, or your so many other things which are there, all are towards this area. So in November 2024, this corridor has been operationalized, and the first shipment of oil, food, machinery, and other has moved, and it represents a good shift. That again, from if you look at it, Mumbai, St. Petersburg, or through the Suez Canal route, this is almost uh, it reduces the transit time by about 15 days, and the distance it reduces almost 5,500 kilometers. And the main commodities which I think, because the population is not that big in this area of Russia, so crude oil, coal, LNG, and other manufactured goods are the ones which would likely to be shipped through this area. And vice versa, it's oil, gas. It gives us India a wonderful opportunity to get towards the Arctic, or easier access to the
Yes.
Arctic route once this corridor gets fully
Yes.
operationalized. Also, the geopolitical significance, it sort of becomes a counterweight to the, if I may say, Chinese maritime dominance in that area. It is a direct India-Russia nexus that uh, bypasses the Chinese intermediation, right? So that is another good counterweight that we get. And as we go forward in the timeline of 27 to 30, as per the open sources, I'm not privy to the official things. I believe the annual trade in this is going to be 15 to 20 billion annually. That
That's
is
a
how it is
good
going.
figure.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good. But before we take questions, we have got a lot of questions. One last question to Air Marshal Bedi. We know that there are talks about India-Russia space cooperation. So a lot of things are going on in that direction. Especially, do you feel there will be cooperation in the rocket engines, or what is your views? And along with this, can we also have cooperation in AI automation and the hypersonics you had mentioned previously? And because these are the areas which are very important, especially the future wars will be all multi-domain warfare, and we know the importance of space, especially the real-time information we can get. So what are your views on that?
Yes, thank you. A lot of scope of cooperation in space domain, and we are cooperating. One example is the human space flight program, in Gaganyaan. Russia has actively helped us, and it's supporting. And now there is so much happening in space. It's not just satellite launch; it's the sensor systems, it is the propulsion systems, which the materials involved, the cryogenic technology involved, in all these things, Russia can help us. And what you mentioned now, other aspects, there is space traffic management, okay, that debris removal, etc., space situational awareness, all these are software kind of, defined capabilities, where we definitely can be helped. Then the most important thing is your PNT, position, navigation, and timing, which is very important in military parlance. Now we have our NAVIC system developing, but it's not that matured or that advanced as, let's say, GPS. And GPS denial keeps happening. Other day, I mean, yesterday there was news, that aircraft over certain airports they were feeling GPS denial, and in contested airspace, this is bound to happen. So if we have cooperation between GLONASS, I mean GNSS system of Russia, and NAVIC, so that they can be interdependent and help out each other when there is a requirement, then the PNT capability of the country improves tremendously. We have aspirations of having our own international space station somewhere in 2035, but it takes a lot to build that capability. We have deep space, missions or aspirations in the times to come, and in all this kind of technologies, Russia, of course, is a developed country. I mean, let's face it, Russia was, or USSR then was, the first country to launch space flight. Someone into space, where America was startled that probably they will have nuclear war coming from space now. Okay. And so there is a technology maturity. Okay, when we come to hypersonics or ballistic missiles, they all make use of space. Okay, you talk of sensors or radars to now detect hypersonic missiles. They are going to be space-based systems. How are they going to pan out? You probably wouldn't be able to detect hypersonic missile from very far. You need space-based systems to look, because ground-based radar horizon will be limited. And if a missile is coming at you traveling almost 2 kilometers a second, then 150 kilometers detection, or is no good. You need much larger detection. So space-based capability comes. Anti-satellite weapons, I think India is trying to be self-sufficient. S-500, you mentioned, probably has that kind of capability, but that will become a kind of, a little contentious, because it will target LEO systems and things like that. So we will not go into that. Let's talk of, capability building, which is for good and which is for, good use. AI and data center, very, very important. You have ground stations, limited ground stations every country will have. So if your ground stations are cooperating, if they are networked, then it's a tremendous boost. And the data networking, the downlinks, etc., if they are cooperating with each other, and the sharing of information is on a quick basis, and on a trustworthy fashion, then it's a tremendous boost in one's capability. There is so much you can talk in space, from chota items to very large items. We have potent rockets in the form of GSLV and LVM-3. But like, we still don't have single stage to orbit capability. You have two stage to orbit capability. You can have that kind of stuff coming up. Lunar missions are going to be single stage to that place, etc. So there is a lot of cooperation which can take place in the space domain,
Space.
both from hardware point of view as well as from
Soft.
software point of view. I mean, this is just a brief overall view that there is so much to do.
Marshal Bedi and General Mehra, if you permit, I'll take some questions, because we have got a lot of questions here. The first one is by Ashish Hegre. He wants to know, Marshal Bedi, it's the questions for you. Can S-400 fully counter J-35 and J-10C plus PL-17 threat in upcoming future? Will Akash Tir be able to detect stealth aircrafts?
These are, now there are too many questions in one. S-400 is, like I said, it's a combination of missiles. It is designed basically to intercept ballistic missiles. Okay, that means it can intercept missiles, but the geometry, the trajectory, the way ballistic missile is intercepted is little different from the way anti-aircraft missile intercepts an aircraft. Anti-ballistic missiles you position in the way of a coming ballistic missile. There is not a dogfight kind of chase, or it's an intercept, classic intercept. Yes, I think it will be able to intercept all these targets, that he has mentioned, provided you have the a complementary network. You need not only that S-400 radar has to detect. You see, if a missile is coming low, you cannot defy laws of physics. If we say that S-400 can detect a target at 600 kilometers, let's say, provided 600 kilometers of radar horizon is available. If, let's say, a target was coming only at 50 meters of height, there is no way you can detect it more than 50 nautical miles. It's law of physics. So you need a complementary network, your AVAX network, like we said, the space detection system networks, which can detect targets at a large distance, can pass down that information to the system, and the systems can be activated in time. If something was coming at a height, let's say 10-20 kilometers, then yes, the answer is yes for all the systems, because you have the radar horizon available, enough warning, and phenomenal number of targets it can detect or keep under surveillance and track while scan, what we call, and a large number of targets it can track simultaneously. Very potent system.
Okay. General Mehra, there is one question for you. It's by Anusuya, and she's asking, why is it that the Russia wants to get skilled labor from India while having the largest foreign labor population from Central Asian republics for so long? You need to unmute your mic.
Sorry. As I mentioned in the passing, that the Russia has a huge demographic issues, and these issues are not newly created. They are right from 1812, when the Napoleon invaded, or during the Second World War, where Russia lost almost 26 million people in those 3-4 years against the Nazi German armies, which marched across the vast plains of Russia. Now, this demographic dividend, a country 5 times the size of India, with just about 145, 146 million people, in the areas of Siberia and some of these districts that they have, the population is very, very less. They don't even have the population to exploit the rich mineral resources that they have, the skilled and the semi-skilled people. Right, as Anusuya has brought out, that they have got lots of population from Central Asian republics, from Tajikistan, from Uzbekistan, and from Kyrgyzstan and all. But then there is one type of population which is there in the cities, and traditionally been in the cities, and doing the jobs, like you'll find lots of workers there, taxi drivers there, mostly are from these particular countries. But there are no skilled or semi-skilled workers which are coming from these countries. So that is where India scores a point. The 6% of the world's hands on the ships, commercial ships, are from India. Similarly, with the skill initiative that the Indian government has embarked upon, as Honorable Prime Minister keeps on saying, we are going to be the skill capital. We want to be the skill capital of the world. And if Russia wants to take advantage of this particular aspect, why not?
Why?
And if you really look at it, there are only about 30 to 40,000 people officially in Russia today, and mostly are the traders. Now, last couple of years, there has been uptake in the people in pharmaceutical, in gem industry, in fabric industry, but still the scope is phenomenal. Still, the mine industry, the oil and gas industry, the shipping industry, there is a huge scope. Also, the IT sector, there is a huge scope.
There's another question for you, Air Marshal Bedi. Can the IF realistically integrate Indian avionics and Western missiles like Meteor on the Su-57 and apply the same approach to the Su-30 under the Super Sukhoi program?
Thank you. And just on the lighter side to the previous question, sir, maybe they don't have Indian jugaad skill set, in Russia.
Absolutely.
Which comes very handy.
Absolutely.
Just on the lighter side. This is, as far as this avionics integration is concerned, this depends on the source codes. Not that India has not done earlier, that not integrated. We have integrated, Israeli weapon systems on Russian aircraft and so on and so forth, and certain, Russian weapons on French, on Mirage 2000, things like that. Okay, but what happens is you got to have that source code. Now, how much of that will be available? India, no country per se would have that capability that you can just pick up two things and just integrate them. So you have to go around the system. Once both the systems are available over a period of time, I don't think it's completely impossible, but it is difficult. And generally, the complete potential of a weapon system is utilized for what platform it is made for, right? So if a Su-30 has to be utilized, it has its own long range missiles, and one is capability development. One is that it's not that you're going to have meteors in thousands, that there are not enough Rafales to carry them, so let's integrate them on Su-30. They are very expensive weapons, very, very precise, and you won't like to degrade their potential just by integrating them on different platform. But yes, if purely capability issue is concerned, as a technology demonstration one has to do, probably it is possible. But I don't think for such expensive systems it's really required to get into that. I mean, it's my personal opinion. Thank you.
There's another question which states that India must take the tech it needs and learn and develop further. But how do we define thresholds in a way that we learn but don't become dependent?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And this has been, even my line of thinking, that this is a balance, which it's not one man's decision, right? So I'm involved technologically. I would want a little more, it's like solving a puzzle. When you sit to solve a puzzle, how many cues are enough? I mean, it just depends how many cues you keep getting. So it is the teacher or the overall supervisor who decides where would he stop, and where now onwards you need to use your pure brain. And you can only get so much cue. So now if we have a target, but without any cue, then you're wasting time. Okay, my point is, if you can't start learning from the very grassroots and develop something, that will take ages. It take years and decades of technology. We are talking of hypersonic. I mean, the programs have started in 50s and 60s. You see, the US, I mean, the X programs, X-15 famous, chota data they have been collecting, and they still, nobody has made a successful cruise missile with scramjet which can run for 1,000 seconds, which is the requirement. So it takes long time. Now for the requirement, this is absolutely wonderful articulation, that yes, you import something, you get something off the shelf and then learn from it. There are ways. Government, I think, nothing is impossible in my opinion. You just have to give directions. If someone wants to say that, okay, come what may, you have to develop, get the technology, you get the manpower. If someone costs you 10 crore rupees a month, just get him if he only knows a thing. So you put everything in towards one technology and say, okay, this is what I have to develop. You need focus. But if you want to develop 100 technologies at the same time, because 100 technologies are available in the world, then you are lagging everywhere. Your focus is not there. Then you get tired. And by the way, who's doing this? Let me bring in an aspect. It's not the government is doing it. We are expecting industry to do it. Right? There are startups now which have come in, thousands of startups. You expect these startups to compete with the world standards. You say you do R&D. We have Adam Nirbhar, we have IDEX programs, we have this. So if I am a startup, how much money can I burn to just do R&D at my end only? Okay, so government needs to hold hands. When we say how much is the R&D budget, it is not DRDO is R&D organization. ISRO is a research organization. So all the budget that goes into DRDO or ISRO is R&D budget. So I think we need to also do, and they're doing it already. Okay, DRDO, the conferences that we attend, that they do research, bring in technology to some maturity and hand it over to the industry like ISRO has done for small satellites. They said that, okay, we will develop the technology of small satellites and give it to industry that, okay, you develop further. And so this is an example of DRDO and ISRO. Similarly, if outside there is a technology available, let's get one equipment and then, tell people that you got to develop it. Doesn't have to be replica of that. And, even if it performs to 80%, of 85% or 90% of what original equipment is performing, I think it's still worth it. You at least have made something, and then you can progress. So absolutely, I agree with this line of thought.
Just a small point. I
Yes.
couldn't agree more with General Bedi, Air Marshal Bedi, what he said. Also, ma'am, one short point is the entire ecosystem of this R&D and the private business has to change. Only the DRDOs and these people can't do the technology part of it. Given the right incentive, given the right avenues to produce something, which there is assurance of the entire ecosystem like this has to change in the country. And I think slowly and steadily this realization is coming that the private sector has lots of potential. We had visited once in Seoul, LG. Almost 30% of the LG's budget was devoted towards the R&D. There's a type of, and that's why the LG is a household name today in most of the countries. So only if the assurance is given to the industry that, okay, fine, whatever they produce, there will be compensation given or certain things will be absorbed, will they like to put the money there?
I think private sector has to come up in a big way in this thing. Now, I'm sorry we are short of time, but thank you so much, Air Marshal Bedi and General Mehra. We had a fantastic opener to this thing. And I'm sure once President Putin is here, a lot of things will happen and we'll have another podcast to debate how things have gone and what the trajectory will be. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And thank you very much, Marshal Bedi. Lot to learn from him also. And it was wonderful interacting, as always.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.